we often get asked, well, why is fire stopping so important? Why do I have to fire stop even the minor breaches in compartment lines? Well, some stats here. So smoke travels between 15 and 90 meters per minute. 67% of fire-related deaths are through smoke inhalation. 44% of deaths are people who were not in the room of origin, and 47% of survivors couldn't see more than 3.5 meters. I think perhaps we could take one of those away. That 44% where the deaths were not in the room of origin. That is where we're saying the compartmentation lines and their integrity played a key role in that fact there. I think BB100 states that there are 4 main reasons for the control and spread of smoke: to protect the means of escape, to assist firefighting, to limit the risk to occupants in rooms not immediately in the vicinity of the fire, and to minimise smoke damage to contents and the fabric of buildings. So essentially, stopping the passage of flame and smoke will save lives, and often this is the small details that aren't necessarily obvious on the surface. I've picked out a couple points from within it. So cloakrooms are areas of special fire hazard according to BB100, so where arson attacks occur relatively frequently. So for that reason, they should be treated as places of special fire hazard, enclosed space, lots of combustible materials. So that's important. Other things are like IT rooms, high value assets. So these are some of the things that BB100 picks up on and goes into. So I'm sure a lot of you in the audience will be aware of it already, but it's worth considering when there's any significant change within the building. But remember as well, the document B is the basic legislation. This is an additional guidance document on top of that.
So what had actually happened, this student, when there was electricity in the room, she'd had her pan on and the power went off. She left the flat. The power came on and the pan carried on cooking, continued to burn and fill the room with smoke. And that was what had set off the alarm. But all told, for me, one of the key things was that the building did what it was supposed to do. It contained that smoke and everything that was going on in that room. So looking at these pictures, they don't look that scary, but I'll tell you, they are worse than they actually look. And the plaster did fall off the wall and everything. But I'll tell you, the fire alarm was activated by the detector in the kitchen. The kitchen door did what it was supposed to do. It sealed the fire and the smoke within the kitchen. There wasn't a molecule of smoke on that corridor. With all the checks and everything that we're doing, we made sure that everything worked. As I've written on here, you have to make sure that your fire safety measures are in place before they're put to the test. Now, this fire was caused by a student who'd come back from a night out and decided to put a pan of oil on. He wanted some chips. And he dutifully went back to his room and he fell asleep. But for me, with all the checks, as I've said before, that was so important that we made sure that everything was in place, because I never, ever, and never have wanted to say to Mr. or Mrs. Jones, I'm really sorry, but there's been an incident. Student safety and people's safety is at the heart of what I do.
Establishing and implementing a thorough fire strategy for the premises is vital. I think according to, it's PAS 911, it refers to fire strategies as providing a clear set of measures encompassing fire precautions, management of fire safety and fire protection. It is one of the most, it's one of the most important topics when we're discussing, managing, assessing and reviewing fire risk. Comes down to competency of who is managing that fire safety, who is assessing your risk. The public clearly needs to have confidence that those responsible for ensuring that buildings in the UK are fire safe and the individuals involved with that have the appropriate knowledge, skills and experience to do so. Obligation for managing the building safety risks, including appointing a single building safety manager for the whole building, but also including operating a system of reporting and also certification for the whole building, and including bringing together a safety case report.
Article 15. And for me, this is often the most serious when it comes to looking at the position of disabled people in buildings, and that's the procedure for serious and imminent danger, of being able to move away. So if the fire is in your room or adjacent or on the floor or the landing, that you can actually get down one stairs, move away, and then on to leaving the building. 15B, nominate a sufficient number of competent persons. Now, what's interesting with this is what it doesn't say. It doesn't say the competent person has to be an employee. And again, over the years, I've heard many debates and discussions, well, you can't do PEEPS because there are no employees. Well, actually, it doesn't say they have to be. And then Article 21, the responsible person must ensure that his employees are provided with adequate safety training. It is the responsibility of the person having responsibility for the building to provide a fire safety risk assessment that includes an emergency evacuation plan for all people. And that includes disabled people. And the real crunch is such an evacuation plan should not rely upon the intervention of the fire and rescue service to make it work. Educational premises, again, exactly the same wording, home office guidance. And I'd like particularly to bring your attention to members of the public using your building. So if you're obviously going to have people visiting your building, if you let your building out for weddings, conferences, or any other type of event, then you have a responsibility to make sure that everyone can evacuate. So part of your processes need to be to ensure that you've captured that information. So this lady, accommodation on the 13th floor. This is a friction-based. She does have a personal assistant support, but she is unable to move. However, she is now with her PEEP, and that's the whole objective, is that she evacuates away from immediate danger in exactly the same manner as all the other residents. So that has achieved the requirement of the legislation and of the Equality Act. Of course, you could get away with discrimination by saying, well, actually, fire doors are going to slam shut, nobody leaves the building until the fire and rescue services come. But I suspect that the general public would not be too happy with that. Just the key takeaways. So disability protected characteristic, fire safety order is criminal law, so it applies to everyone. If you're a responsible person, you are personally responsible, and breaches risk prosecution and prison sentences. Buddies don't have to be employees, and just join up the dots of information to identify those who may not be able to evacuate.